It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha! It's Feedback Friday, and voice went croaky right as I was about to talk. Okay, so I am gonna have to do a feedback video for Monday's video and then Tuesday's video because I started tracking comments and there were way too many. They're all good discussions. But there's just no time. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll do a follow-up on Tuesday from last Tuesday's video, but this is going to be about the approaching women false accusation stuff because there were so many comments. As a few people pointed out, the view to comment ratio was about 10-1. It generated a lot of comments. So let's keep talking. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it, can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Part of the reason I wasn't able to condense comments this week so much is I had so many Leanna Care sessions this week, so I want to squeeze everybody in. They were wonderful as usual. Learned a lot. Actually developed a few new techniques this week that maybe will be showing up on future Wellness Wednesdays. And I just realized that one cheek is way stronger than the other cheek. It's like a tabloid bruise. Anyway, enough of my off-color dark humor. Like I said, obviously this hit a nerve. I'm gonna get right to the comments. What was interesting was the amount of agreement. What was also interesting is the number of people who are like, nope, sorry, still not approaching women. No one's saying you have to approach women. I always find this perplexing. And I realize part of this is because I am a literal thinker. And somebody told me today that their friends find me condescending because I put so many, no, I didn't, I don't mean this. No, I don't mean this in my videos. People find that condescending. But every video, the one thing I don't put a caveat on, someone goes, no. And I guess I didn't clearly say, I'm not saying you have to approach women. I'm not even saying you should approach women. I'm just saying if you want to, but if you're afraid to, this is how you do it. No one is saying this is compelled action or compelled speech. I can't win. It's like a man in modern heterosexual dating. Right. All right. So let's get to the comments beyond that. First commenter. Here's my unpopular opinion regarding from myself, who isn't a feminist. And obviously all these are edited a bit so I could get more in. I actually appreciate and agree with women being repulsed by dudes trying to impress, hit on, or attempt to date them. It's fake, silly nonsense and isn't cute. Very immature and comes across as territorial, very douchebag-centric. On the other hand, there are times that this male behavior is categorized as sexual harassment, which I think is too far and harsh. You even have casual conversations be conflated as such. There was even a man who saved a woman from CPR and she filed a serious case on him for sexual assault. Not satire, it happens. There needs to be a fine line to better categorize what's annoying, trying to flirt, and criminal assault and harassment. And I agree. And that's, I'm Gen X. We had a much greater category of annoying than exists now, right? The kind of, lawful but awful thing. And annoying was just that, annoying. We were the generation that walked to our car at night with our keys wedged between our fingers, and somehow that was a self-defense technique. But we were less fearful of the world. I don't know what's happened. I'm, not a social scientist. But yeah, there definitely needs to be more, less fear everywhere around. Appreciate that. There was more to the comment, but, There we go. Someone else. So somewhat tangentially, I know it's not usually your thing, but I'm curious about your feelings about Arcane. I know you mentioned Vi a few weeks ago and how you hated her, and this episode makes mention of Jinx, so I assume you finished watching it by now. I'm not sure how intentional it was given today's topic, including the savior mentality, and one of the episodes of Arcane being the boy savior, and the implication that there's very much that same thing going on in trying to save Jinx. The common interest in the manic pixie dream girl trope, Jinx's original game release, was much closer to the sexy Harley Quinn knockoff than the Arcane version was. Makes me wonder how much the feelings of trying to save Jinx still applies for people viewing the show. Generally, such a desire comes with at least a vague idea of how to make things better, yet Arcane very strongly impresses on you that no, there is no easy fix, and your good intentions are very likely to backfire. Is there interest in me talking about Arcane? And specifically, what about Arcane? Because I've literally talked about Arcane with people for freaking hours. Who's your favorite Arcane character is another one of those conversation starters I talked about on Wednesday if people have seen the show. Yeah. Is there interest in me talking about Arcane? Let me know, because I will talk at length about Arcane. Next question. That is something I learned the long and hard way, because there's so much abuse of oneself that happens because you put all the responsibility of that interaction on yourself, when really the only control you have is what you decide to do. How they react is entirely a decision, and sometimes that decision is dumb, mean, and out of line. Yeah, I wish I'd learned that earlier as well, commenter. The idea that, your goals for things, healthy goals, are about what you can control and not the other person's response or circumstances beyond your control. And that doesn't mean say whatever you want and too bad, because that's not self-control, right? What it means is you're considerate, you try to be compassionate, you do everything you can, and recognize everybody brings their own baggage into a situation, as we saw in so many commenters. And something people don't seem to understand, and they get prickly with me about when I come down hard on certain... I don't like the term aggressive, because I don't have any problem with aggressive. It's when it gets ad hominem, right? When it gets into attacks of my or anyone else's entire character instead of a particular point. If I let one person do that, I have to let everyone do that. And I'm not prepared to do that. So sometimes, even though I would love to let somebody, because I know they're in a difficult spot or they have pain, even when I'd like to let it slide a bit, I can't, because that's not fair. And if I reward the people who behave badly, that's encouraging other people to behave badly. And this is on topic for this, right? Because so much of the problem with this groups of people versus groups of people thing is that society and the media have intentionally or unintentionally rewarded bad behavior. And I don't want to be a part of that. And that makes it difficult in the short term. It means I have to be prepared to, do things that I know will cause people who want to get away with shit to not watch my channel or give me a hard time sometimes. But I'm willing to do that because healthy conversation and people feeling like they can come somewhere that's fair. There's a difference between believing someone's fair and believing someone's right? I can't be right all the time. It's not possible. I almost went Beelzebub there in my head. I did go Beelzebub in my head. I just didn't say it out loud. Even someone as perfect as moi. But I can't be fair. Fair is something I can control. So, one person said affirmative consent would be a great topic for a series of videos, given nobody actually does affirmative consent in the real world. There is this one Leanna Cares client. We talk about adult content, and he is so utterly lovely every single time. He asked me if I'm comfortable with the subject material because I'm fine. But the fact that he asked me every single time, I have learned from. And I've actually adopted that. Like, if in doubt, check. He's so great about, because, hey, you never know. And so that is someone who actually does practice affirmative consent in the real world. Awesome. Awesome. Good people exist. This comment I found really interesting, and I'm like, huh. I enjoy Manly Mondays not because I need it, but it's fascinating to see Leanna navigate the space. The point about avoiding people who are always the victim has been my top advice for any social connections for some time now. Not only who you approach for a romantic relationship, but also who you're friends with and who you work with. Leanna's right here. You know these people. The one that has many relationships that went really bad. Every boss was terrible. Every teacher was evil. The parents are more evil, and 3 out of 4 new friend groups in the last 2 years betrayed them. It may happen that a really wonderful person gets from one bad situation to the next one until they meet you, the one exception. And it is rather likely the person is not actually evil but needs help. In that case, it's unlikely that your presence alone will magically just fix everything, or that you could, even if you tried your very best. It's more likely that you will become the villain in the next chapter in the sad story that gets told to the next person. Not saying stay away at any cost, but be conscious what you're getting into and don't do it based on the assumption of you being a magical savior. Second tip, don't start any relationships on betrayal. Once again, not only who you approach for a romantic relationship, but also who you're friends with and who you work with. People who would betray something or someone with you or for you will not be deceptive to everyone else, but super trustworthy and loyal to you. That includes terms like on a break. Yeah, on a break is okay, on a break, be prepared that they may go back, right? But yes, it is a decent rule if you want no question to avoid on a break, right? Honesty is really important. One of the things I like about Manly Mondays is putting this stuff out there and then having actual men comment and agree. And I think that seeing, okay, this is resonating. There's different opinions on this. Like last week about men crying. That was a few weeks ago. But, the one about men crying, I did so much reading after that because the responses were all over the map. And when responses are all over the map, that's when it's like, okay, yes, there is a lot of diversity here. There's a lot of space for individuality. And you guys know that that's my thing. The individual first. Individuality first and foremost always. But for something like this where there are so many people in agreement on the fundamentals of this, I think is really, really important. Because it means, it means there's something here. Another person agreed similarly, but asked a good question. I think you more or less hit the nail on the head. The whole thing of a false accusation is that you didn't do the thing. So it's not really on you to do something to not get accused. The important thing to protect yourself is to be able to identify the red flags people are presenting and actually heed what they're telling you. I do have to wonder, though, if spotting the red flags is really as easy as people like to believe it is. I can't imagine many people would perceive themselves to be a poor judge of character. When it comes down to it, people have a lot more blind spots than they give themselves credit for. Interesting to see the Wellness Wednesday on getting to know people. Okay, so learning how to spot red flags. And I want to be very careful with this because some people they say naturally good judges of character, but I don't believe it's natural. I believe it's nurture. People like me have just been through a lot of shit. We've made a lot of mistakes and gotten burned a lot of times. So what seems like a natural ability is actually learned behavior. And one of the things I'd love to do is bring in somebody I learned a lot from, but because of the nature of their job, it couldn't be on an open YouTube forum. There are certain red flags, as the previous commenter said, the idea that everyone's against them. Now it could possibly be true. I have a few friends, they just had really crappy luck, but they eventually learned that they actually were gravitating towards people who took advantage of them because they have low self-esteem, and they're working on that. And it's true that hurt people, but there is a difference between people who hurt people inadvertently and are incredibly sorry when they do, and people who hurt people and find it funny or get a sense of power out of it. And I do think that's where the betrayal element of the last comment comes in. If you see somebody doing something to someone else, assume they're doing it to you as well. I have a big issue with gossip for that reason. When people just shit talk people behind their back. Now, I want to be very clear what I mean by gossip, because everybody talks about other people. There's gossip, which I believe is inherently malicious. It's the Jewish version of gossip. It's in the Torah. Gossip, malicious gossip is actually one of the, with the commentaries, one of the worst sins you can commit. And that's not the same as having a conversation about somebody because you're legitimately concerned, or going, oh my God, this person is driving me crazy, because you're trying to strategize. That's not malicious. It's the, oh my God, did you see what they did? Kind of gossip that if they're doing that to other people, they're doing it to you. And if you can handle that, fine. But, part of the reason I put as much out there as I do is, there are certain things I keep private, in big part because they involve people and it's not my story to tell. I had to sit on the Joss Whedon thing for a decade because of that. But, my opinions, I am open about. Because, when people, I don't want people to feel like or think I'm a completely different person not on YouTube. I hate that when things are like that. Unless someone's like obviously performing a character. That's different. Like Betty Bowers, what's her name? The lady that does like the satirical stuff is just like a 60s housewife. Obviously that's character, right? But that's not what I do. So I put a lot out there, and I take a lot of crap, and I've been struggling with the with It's Not Therapy launching, whether I should back off on the takes. And then I thought, you know what? I can't do that, because the people, part of the reason people trust me is because they think they have a general sense of me. And so I want to continue to voice my opinion about things I think are important. And you guys know there are times I'm like, this is not important. Like, I just refuse to talk about the Lord of the Rings Amazon series because I dip my toe in. I only have so many spoons. It's not important enough for me to fight it. But yeah, I'll think about the red flags thing. It is simple. It is not easy. It takes a lot of learning to spot the different signs. There are some things that, and I'm very hesitant because it's all contextual. So I'll think about how to make that work. Last question for Feedback Friday. I'm currently dating someone who's very woe is me until anyone However, I am aware that there's a genuine history of sexual abuse starting from childhood. Should I still regard this as a red flag in terms of my own safety? Additionally, I am worried about how to extricate myself from the relationship if it does break down. There's a history of suicide attempts, and even a bad argument causes them to self-harm, once to the point that they were hospitalized. So it's a genuine concern that if we do break up, this person who I care about will wind up dead. Do you have any advice? Okay. Wow. Okay. First advice when dealing with somebody with suicidal ideation, um, I say to everybody, and this is what I said to somebody, and this is what I was told by an expert in the field. Don't promise ever to keep it a secret and not tell anyone. You have to, as long as there is life, there is hope. Now, obviously this person needs help now, right? And relationship, I'll get to the relationship, but first, this is a human being who clearly needs help. If they're self-harming, that's an indication something, it can't wait. This is somebody in a really deep amount of pain. Sexual abuse is a particularly complex thing. Notice I didn't say difficult. I said complex. And any trauma gives people difficulty telling the present from the past. Trauma does funny things to time. So, yes, certain arguments, certain situations, certain smells, even certain tones of voice can cause a person to flash back. That's why it's called the flashback. And they're not in the present anymore. They're somewhere in the past. And that's very hard for the person to remember accurately because, well, they didn't mean to do that, right? The first, my absolute first concern here is for this person who is self-harming. Now, I understand that there are access issues, hence why I do Leanna Cares, right? It's an affordable service for people that either... I'm getting a lot more clients who conventional therapy has not worked for. And I actually reached out to one of the experts I deal with in terms of best practices and policy. And I'm like, why am I getting results for people in 1 or 2 weeks when they've been in years of therapy? And what he basically told me is it's a completely different thing. It's the difference between theory and detachment and people who have been in similar situations and so they know what it's like. That was the short version. He was much smarter about it. But self-harm is a really complicated thing. And you can't spend... If you're spending all your time worried that the person you care about is not going to be around, you're not actually spending time with them when you're with them. And this is a situation that is unsustainable in a lot of ways. I am very hesitant to give advice about the relationship itself because I don't know enough particulars. Ideally, this person who you care about commenter will get into, this is more of an it's not therapy question, but the person will get into treatment of some kind and the other things will take care of itself. They're able to take the ups and downs of life more, they're able to absorb and process much better. And so everything else will take care of itself. That's probably the best answer I can give. That's the best advice I can give is this person needs a new path now. And the reason I say needs help, because no one gets to determine who needs help. Everybody's the hero of their own story, as I say, and it's not therapy. But if someone's self-harming, if someone's, using thoughts of suicide as a sense of control, like over the circumstances, that person needs a new path. They deserve a new path. And so, I mean, I commenter, I don't know if you're on Twitter or anything like that. If you can contact me privately, fill out the Leanna Cares form or something like that so we can talk about this further. It's in the description box below. But yeah, that's the best I can do with the amount of information I'm given there. This is obviously a much longer conversation. So that's where I'll leave it there. Heavy ending to Feedback Friday, but like I said, this is going to continue. There were so many comments. You know what's coming? Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.